I'm in San Diego. Welcome to Global TV Talk Show. Live in Ukraine is Chris Exline, who's suffering from a cold, a pneumonia, I guess, and all kinds of issues swirling around Ukraine these days. And from Berlin, a good friend, and thank you, Alex Langham, for coming.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Alex, would you please just very briefly introduce yourself to the audience out there?
I've prepared a short slide set for you. Should I use
Yeah,
that set
not
right
not
away?
just no, not just yet. But if you could just talk to us about Visum Point.
Okay, so I'm the owner and managing director of Visum Point, a Germany-based company, and we are providing legalization services, immigration relocation services to the world. And we established our company about 15 years ago, and we are quite successfully. We are still privately owned by my wife and myself. So, and we are moving quite well. So we are gaining 25% revenue growth year over year, and so that's why we are quite successful in this business.
This is really good. Reintroducing my good friend of 26 years or so, Chris Exline, uh, American, but has been living and headquartered in Hong Kong for many years, more than 20 years. And a couple of years ago, he decided to be uh, uh, a daredevil and bootstrapping entrepreneur again. And he relocated himself and his executive office to Ukraine, of all places. And as not only a business opportunity, but to be on the ground and to be involved helping people. So, Chris, oh, you have a limited time span today. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm actually going to be, once I get done with this, I'm going to be addressing the the national meeting of mayors in Ukraine. So I'll be speaking to the many of the mayors in Ukraine.
Yeah. Is
And
that by Zoom or are you traveling somewhere?
the only place I'm traveling is to the get more Kleenex. The no, it's by Zoom. It's by Zoom. So it's a link to all of them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
back in November, I was a keynote speaker at the national mayors meeting in Kiev. So this is just kind of a follow up to that.
Yeah.
And
And what are you speaking about today?
basically, what we're having to do, and what I'm trying to do, is give some form of encouragement. You know, right? What's occurred with Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin speaking. The things and Ed, I've been telling you this for 18 months or more. There things are afoot to end this phase of the conflict, whether it's perceived by me or anyone else as fair or not. It's happening, and now things have to be kind of determined about what will reconstruction of this country look like if it occurs at all. What is left of Ukraine and how will it be grafted into the European Union? What and who do you talk to? And so I'm just, as we're, the first foreign multinational company to invest in Ukraine since the full scale invasion. I think it's more important for me to speed up our rollout of stores and not push it back. And so we're gonna, instead of opening up one store, I'm gonna open up 3 new ones in March.
Okay, I want you to briefly recap, and if you can do it in 1 minute, that'd be great, or 2 minutes is fine, about Home Essentials as a company. It's home furnishings.
Right, we're the largest furniture rental company outside of the United States. We operate in Asia and Europe mostly, a little bit in the Middle East. And we like everybody else, we provide furniture for expatriates on assignment.
Right. Now, and you have manufacturing and a headquarters in Europe in Madrid.
Well, our manufacturing has mostly been out of China until I got to Ukraine, and we're shifting that focus to start manufacturing and replicating our supply chain here within Ukraine.
Oh, well, that's a great idea.
Thanks.
So, and so you came into Ukraine, um, not with bags of money, but with bags of energy and brains. And you bought the manufacturing capacity of a small manufacturing company that was going broke, I guess. And you come in as a lifesaver. And very quickly, just recap what it
Yeah,
is that you're
so
making there. You have mattresses and now cushions and some other things.
right. So basically, we came into Ukraine because of our company's history and participate. Like I furnished the green zone in Baghdad. We did most of the embassies in Kabul, Afghanistan. I actually personally set up the government of South Sudan and Juba and Al Fasha. So we came in here basically to participate and get ready for reconstruction. As that window became longer and longer, I decided to open up retail stores similar to what we have in other areas. And shipping things from China is kind of a non-starter, especially here. And so we started looking, and one of the reasons we settled on Kremenetz is that there's a mattress factory here. We're able to partner up with them. I would not say they were growing broke. Would never do that to anybody, but we did go in there and we did absorb their capacity and thereby saving the jobs in the factory.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just being a nosy
Uh-huh.
editor, making silly comments to generate a response. So I'll be careful. So our friend here in Berlin very graciously standing by. I've asked him to do a mini keynote about his business, but I don't want to delay what you're doing in your day to day. And I really love your presence here again. I wish you Godspeed to continue what you're doing and stay safe and get rid of that pneumonia. Chicken soup, vodka, not a combination, but in sequence.
Ginger also helps.
Oh, ginger, yeah. Okay,
Ginger
ginger
helps.
ale? No, just ginger cubes or
No,
something.
exactly.
Yeah, zinc. I've gone to zinc, and that's also helped. Okay, enough with remedies. So, my friend, Donald Trump is a deal maker, and he's probably a pretty good poker player, and he's uh, a showman. So he's got the whole world watching every day, every move, and uh, somebody like you as an entrepreneur and looking around at the people who are going to be impacted by what he and Putin are going to decide, I would think it's pretty scary right now.
What nobody likes uncertainty. I mean, so when in the absence of information, the human condition always predicts the worst, and that's what you got here. And people just don't know. And it's like I've said before. The country's gone from 44 million people in 2020 down to 36 million. It'll have 29 million by 2030. And it's just in 15 million will be left by 2050. So it's you've got all of those those demographic challenges. You've got economy and investment issues. You've got to know where to invest and how and why. And I can tell you, it's also confusing because people here don't know who's really making the decisions. And then you've also got another thing is, I mean, again, it's probably not the best place to say it, but if the president of the United States flies to Moscow to shake that person's hand, I think that's that's a horrible precedent for the president of the United States to do. And your European allies are now scrambling to find out what's going on. If Putin and Trump kind of come up with a deal where basically Putin can declare victory, then how many millions of people will be sacrificed? And if that's what happens, and Alex is in Germany, how many of those Ukrainians that have left and are living in Europe, in Poland, in Germany, and the United Kingdom. How many of them are going to want to move back? Not many.
Yeah, I would think people want to get out,
Well, there
but
was
but they can't and they won't. So they're trapped.
well, they are and they aren't. I mean, women and children and people over 60 can leave. It's just men between the ages of basically 15 and 60 that can't. But you've got to have a compelling reason to bring people back. And if you've got uncertainty, if you've given Putin and Russia a victory, it's very hard to make the case. And the other thing that we're dealing with on the fallout, Ed, is that people that are sitting in Europe or in the United States or Canada that were looking at maybe possibly coming to Ukraine, how many of those people can make a business case to do so if they were hoping for contracts that could be wiped out with the stroke of a pen? So you've just injected so much more uncertainty, and what that's going to do is that's just going to put a brake on a lot of people's investment plans for this country.
Yeah, Alex, what do you think of all this?
At the end of the day, the question is, how long would you like to have a war going on? So I would really appreciate if someone can decide whether this is together with the Europeans or not, someone to decide to end this war, to stop this
Today.
incredible disaster.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
should happen today. And I'm pretty certain, and we have already heard the speech of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from the US, that they have already more or less decided what is going to happen. One thing is that the Ukraine will not be part of the NATO. The Ukraine has to give up a couple of territories like the Crimea, like the Donbass. This has to be given up by the Ukrainians, so the borderline will be drawn newly. So this will happen. I'm also quite certain that the Ukraine is not going to have a chance to be part of the European community in the next couple of years. So this is something which is going to happen. But at the end, I would prefer that the war is going to stop. Uh, Whatever it costs, this needs to end as you said, this needs to end today.
Yeah. So I just want to be sure, Chris, you know about Alex. He's for many years very senior executive within Siemens and Hewlett Packard. And did I misstate anything?
No, no, that's fine, Ed.
Yeah, okay, good. All right. So Chris, thank you very much for your time. I wish you good health as ASAP.
Thank you very much. It's been wonderful to be a part of it, and I look forward to staying in contact. It's a lot's going to be happening in the next 8 weeks, and so I think Alex's wish will become a prophecy that will become fulfilled very very soon.
Yeah, Alex, what do you think will go on in Munich today and tomorrow?
Yeah, first of all, there will be first discussions in Munich on how the end of the war will be discussed, and it will end up with what the contract is going to be, what decisions are going to be made. I think this will happen now. The first talks will happen in Munich about this one. The only thing which I don't like so much is, that it is a discussion between Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin on a country which is not more or less involved in these discussions. This is something which is threatening from my point of view. And this is also, as you mentioned that, Chris, not a lot of people who migrated to Europe, to Germany, to the UK, are willing to go back to Ukraine based on these negotiations. So this is something which I don't like so much. So I hope that Europe and also the Ukraine is going to be involved in these kind of discussions, and they have a say in what is going to happen with the Ukrainians at the end of the day. And this is, I hope Chris, you can help also a little bit by being in the Ukraine and also to mitigate the problems they have.
Yeah, thank you for that. Chris, would you like to comment before we get into Alex's presentation?
So, yeah, I do want to see Alex's presentation before I go in the next few minutes, but I really can't do anything more than continue our company's investment. Make sure that everybody understands that regardless of what happens in these other areas, we are in Ukraine because we have a business case for being here. Our business is actually quite successful here. I don't like to use the word success in a country at war where people are dying. But it resonates with the customer, 0% interest. We're the first furniture rental company in Ukraine. We do rent to own or hire purchase. And that is really striking a chord with a lot of people. And that's what's driving our, and hopefully that will be I'm going to be giving this series of speeches in March in the United States. And hopefully we can get people to focus on having a real reason to come and invest in Ukraine. So I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Okay. I want you to use the chat down here on your screen and send a message to Alex with your contact details so you guys can continue a relationship
That would be
beyond
very nice.
today. Yeah. Okay, Alex, please upload the slides that you want to
If
my
you can
screen
help,
share.
if you could help me on that, you know how to upload that in Zoom. I don't know.
I do not, but Chris, do you know how to guide Alex
Can I
to
can I
upload?
share, can I share a document? Can I share my screen in here?
Well, I have my screen share open for you, so you need to push a button somewhere once you get to that document and try to upload it into my screen share.
Upload into my screen share.
I'm sorry, I don't have the technical skills to explain that any better.
What I can do is I can send you my presentation quite quickly, and you are then my mastermind, Ed.
I'm not sure I know how to do anything with that. Chris, can you help? Well, you're on mute.
Because in Europe, we are always using Teams and not
Yeah.
Zoom. Audio, video, chat. Ja, again, maybe this is the one.
Well, if you're having difficulty and I have no skills, then
Share document. Great.
oh,
Share,
okay, great. That's it.
There you go.
share document. Maybe that's the one. No. No. Doesn't let me go through.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, you can just describe what the audience will eventually see.
yeah. So I've passed it on to you. So if you have the possibility to.
I don't know how to do that, and while the recording is going on, I don't want to take your time.
So mainly my presentation is focusing on what is happening at the moment between Europe and the US.
Okay.
And the title of my presentation is called Go West, Global Assignment Challenges for European Companies. As I mentioned it earlier on, Visum Point is an international provider for global mobility services. This includes visa, like tourist, business, or work visa. This also includes immigration and relocation services. And based on these services, we are kind of an indicator of what is going to happen in the next couple of months. And with our company operating internationally, also in the US, but also in India or in other countries, we are already observing incoming orders, an avalanche of incoming orders for work visa to the US. And this is mainly caused by also by the Trump administration, but also early on by the administration of Mr. Biden. So the impact on the relationship between US and Europe is, first of all, caused by Donald Trump's America First policy, which has resulted in tightening tightening the trade relationships between Europe and the US.
Yeah, I just want to welcome for a second Annette, Louisa. Thank you so much for joining us from Bonn area, Cologne.
Hi,
And
Annette.
oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Yes, thank you very much. Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I think you know Chris Exline and of course Alex.
Yes.
And welcome, my friend. I know you've been really busy today. Okay, Alex. Alex is talking about his business.
Exactly, and I'm talking about the business that we are having and that we see already incoming orders in the area of work visa for the US, and so we are a kind of a indicator of what is going to happen during the next couple of months based on the changes in the policies in the US. And one point I wanted to make is America First policy of Donald Trump. And the introduction of tariffs, everybody is aware of this. He already did that back in 2017, 2018, where he imposed US tariffs on steel and aluminum to the EU, and the EU responded also with tariffs on US products, especially on whiskey and motorcycles for the states where Mr. Trump gained a lot of votes there. So this was a kind of a war of tariffs back in the last administration of Mr. Trump. Now we are back again with Mr. Trump. The war of tariffs is now on again. He introduced, just after the inauguration, he introduced tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Mexico is currently under negotiation again, but it's also an increase of 25%. The last couple of days, he also introduced a 25% blanket tariff on EU steel imports to the US, which will also end up in the increase on the inflation in the US, but also in Europe. So I'm not sure whether this is the right way forward, but we have to deal with it. But last but not least, this kind of protectionism in the US was also under the administration of Mr. Biden. His slogan was invent here, make it here. And he introduced subsidies of more than $2,000 billion by coming up with an infrastructure act, which was a total volume of $550 billion, the Inflation Reduction Act of $750 billion, and the Tax Credit Act, which is also significant in this area. So in total, it's about 2,000 billion subsidies, what also Mr. Biden has introduced. And this has led also to some thinking in Europe and also in Germany. In Germany, for instance, the high economic costs has been estimated by the German Economic Institute. Only that the tariffs that have been introduced by Mr. Trump will cost Germany around 25 billion euro in the next couple of months and years. Our export is under extreme pressure, and we, an export nation in Germany, in the US had a trade deficit, and we gain from this. That's why we are heavily impacted, especially in the areas of automotive, mechanical engineering, chemical industries. This is going to have an enormous impact if we do not react. Also to our labor market, because this will also decline a little bit. We can see that already. So this is not really good for us. That's why European companies have to react on this one. German manufacturing companies like BMW, Daimler, they are already under negotiations with the US government to reduce these trade barriers. I'm not sure whether this will lead to the better. I'm really not sure about this, but at least they talk to the officials in the US. We are already changing our our production in the way that we increase production in Europe to offset potential losses abroad. But the main strategy which we can see is the change in the supply chain. This is mainly caused, first of all, by COVID, was the first major change, where also in the US, but also Europe, has seen that a single supplier strategy is not really the best way forward. We have seen that in the semiconductor industry that we have big dependencies on China and Taiwan, which was not good. That's why European companies have started to build up a dual supply chain strategy, building up production capacities in the US, but also in Mexico or in Canada, in some other territories. Now, with the change of the administration of Mr. Biden, but now also with Mr. Trump, European companies are starting to shift their production capacities to the US. Volkswagen is a good example for this one. They have started to build up a manufacturing site in South Carolina. This manufacturing site will go live in 2026, and they will produce about 2 million SUV cars and electric pickups in South Carolina for the US market.
So is that all German manufacturers or just Daimler?
This is just Volkswagen. Just Volkswagen. There are already lots of manufacturing companies in the US.
Yes.
And BMW is, for instance, in South Carolina.
Right.
And Daimler is also having huge capacities in that area. But on the other side, these manufacturing companies, they have also huge capacities. ZF is another example with about 80,000 employees mainly in the US, but they have also huge capacities built up in Mexico. But this means if Mexico is enforced on this tariff of 25%, which I mentioned earlier on, also European companies are impacted on this one because the manufacturing which is happening in Mexico is mainly for the US market.
Right.
That's why European companies are building up manufacturing capacities in the US. First of all, to gain the money from the subsidies the US, the administration of Mr. Biden has introduced, but also to bypass the tariffs of Mr. Biden. And we see that, this is what we see already today in our business, because we are focusing on immigration and relocation services. We get lots of new orders of giving people or trying to get work visa for the US market, that our experts in Europe and in Germany can move over to the US and are able to build up these manufacturing capacities.
Yeah. Well, we certainly welcome all of you, and it'll make Mr. Trump a winner.
Yeah,
but it's also going to cost working people more money, and that's exactly opposite to what he campaigned about.
Yeah, but on the other side, I think you will really gain from it. I've seen one example, by looking into this one on the battery production, for instance. Lithium-ion batteries, for instance, has cost about 3 years ago, has cost in China $111 per piece. In the US, the price was $55, and in Europe, the production cost is $178. So in Europe, we are much more costly in comparison to China and the US. In the IRA subsidy of Mr. Biden, here you get $45 back per each kilowatt hour you are going to produce by a battery, which reduces the price for a battery significantly in the US. As a result, this means production capacities for battery production will increase significantly, and I'm not sure whether we can cope with that in Europe. And I would say in the next 10 years, you will see lots of battery production sites popping up in the US.
Yeah, interesting. This is just a great presentation and dialogue with you, Alex. Thank you.
It's my pleasure without slides. I'm sorry about it.
Yes, well, I was just envisioning all these charts. And so, so
In
Annette,
fact,
how are you? And Happy New Year.
I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, New Year to you as well. I really would like to add what you just said, Alexander, because we had a very good meeting with the head of the Chamber of Commerce in the United States in New York. She's from Germany actually. And the picture that she drew, in my opinion, is less, maybe let's say, intimidating or less frightening than what I've heard from you. Um, she, what she also said is that costs in the United States will increase considerably, and that this will hurt the American population. And yeah, even though this might have an effect on on European producers, what she also emphasized is, and I didn't know that, maybe Alexander, you already knew this, is that for companies from Germany, it's always good to go into contact, to make contact to the different states, because they have kind of much more possibilities. And even if the president is putting up tariffs, it's possible that yeah, a company will find a way how to cooperate with a certain state and do what you've just said about Volkswagen. And it made me a little bit, let's say, less worried, because and we also had a discussion about how we perceive Trump here in Germany, and that the perception of him in the United States is really yeah, not totally different, but different from what we hear in our media. And when I left the talk with her, I had the impression that yeah, it's not a very easy situation, but she sounded in a way also kind of positive, that if people really want to look for a solution, then there are more possibilities for a solution than we see here through the media in Germany. And yeah, that for me was kind of yeah, uplifting, I would say. Because sometimes when I have a look in the German media, it's yeah, Trump being like pictured like, let's say, very big, frightening. I don't want I'm using it even though I didn't want to, kind of a monster. And so she kind of yeah, she gave another view on this picture, and I found this quite good. And also what you mentioned, Alexander, that now people will be caught in the United States. We were also talking about the problem of finding skilled personnel in the United States as well, the same problem that we have here. And I really had the impression that yeah, there are some things that also unite us. And so I feel a little bit more hopeful than before.
Well, that's interesting. So yeah, in the states, each state is able to give their own discounts or tax breaks or some other trade deal that will help the local people. Um, and that will lower some costs to counteract the federal, U.S. federal uh, tariff, which a tax. So there's compensating balances, if you will. So I'm glad you brought that up.
So she wasn't only emphasizing on the American companies. She said that this is true for foreign companies as well. So, for example, if a German company wants to go to the United States, then it's really worth to, yes, to go via our Foreign Chamber of Commerce in the United States, and to really get into contact with different states from the United States, because
Right.
it's sometimes for us from Germany, it's sometimes a little bit difficult to really see where to put, for example, a plant, because it's about workforce, it's about logistics and all those things, taxes. That for us living in Germany is not that easy to really kind of calculate all this. And so they support with this. And I really hadn't known that the autonomy of the states in the United States is so big as she mentioned it.
Yeah, it's huge. And uh, so California has a reputation as being really high cost, but the and that's true. Um, but there's compensating balances as well. If a if a company is going to look for places to put a manufacturing plant, the Southeast, such as South Carolina, or more inland, for instance, Tennessee, Eastern Tennessee in particular, is more rural and lower costs across the board to do anything. And parts of Arkansas, which is sort of south central, and into Texas, which is very aggressively seeking FDI, foreign direct investment. Um, and, but even in California, it's a huge state. Um, I'm in San Diego on the Mexican border, and LA, where the fires were 2 weeks ago or so, is 150 to 200 miles. It's a big area, so it
Yeah.
depends on where. North of me. And San Francisco is 500 to 600 miles north of me, and still in California. And then California goes even 600 miles north of San Francisco up to Oregon, and it's mostly rural, mountainous. Uh, so vast areas, and the state of California has economic development incentives for anybody who wants to get involved in all of that. But and many companies don't want to, and they go into the south, uh, as I just said. Um, and in the north central of the U.S., like Dakota, North Dakota, South Dakota, these are vast plains, agricultural, and under the ground is huge oil, gas, and fracking kind of production. Huge. And just north of that is Canada, and it's the same energy basin, but it's in Canada. Okay. And so there's huge different areas, and every state competes with the other states on getting deals made. Um, and it takes a long time, and it's an expensive proposition because of lobbying and lawyers who can make it happen or make it difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was another thing that she mentioned, that even though it is said that tax, for example, for steel is now increased by 25%, that's not valid for every type of steel.
Right.
So it's also good to have a closer look what kind of steel it is, because there are many products that are not produced in the United States. And as Alexander, as you've already mentioned, this increase of taxes, it will really kind of hurt the population. And if they really put the tax on all the products, then it will be really difficult to find a substitute. So there are also ways around. And then she said something else that I found really very interesting. She mentioned the book that Donald Trump had been had written many years ago, which is called The Art of the Deal. And so her opinion was that he kind of puts in a mark And then he starts negotiating. And I think that, at least for me in Germany, I don't know how about you, Alexander, this is kind of interesting because I don't know that I've ever experienced one of our Bundeskanzlers to really act like this. And so that's maybe the difference with Trump. So that, yeah, he starts with this and then he's going to negotiate to really find a solution. And so it was really interesting to listen to her because it gave me a picture that was different from the one that I have or had.
Annette, you're absolutely right with that observation. But at the end of the day, increasing tariffs will end up in inflation. So this is
Yes,
something which is happening, and this is not to the better for the population, because they have to deal with higher prices. So that's
exactly.
why I don't think that this is a really good idea of Mr. Trump, and we all know he's a deal maker. He came up also with this wonderful idea of building up the Riviera in Gaza by getting rid of everything, all people out of Gaza, and we build up new houses and new everything in Gaza without thinking about the people who are living there. So he has a different way of thinking, and
Yeah.
I remember a nice story which I would like to share with you from John Decker. He's the chief White House correspondent, and I met him. He made a speech in the embassy of U.S. embassy in Berlin. We had a Christmas reception there, and he talked about Mr. Trump and his behavior and so on. And as he said, also said he's a deal maker. And when he also was with him when he in his first administration, he flew together with the all everybody and Mr. Trump to South Korea, because at that time Mr. Trump wanted to make a deal with South Korea because too many South Korean cars have been imported into the US, and he wanted to negotiate a new deal, talking about tariffs and so on. He wanted to introduce higher tariffs for South Korean cars. And when he was there negotiating with the president and all the people in South Korea, they came up with a free trade agreement that that US cars can be imported, including spare parts from the US to South Korea, free of charge, no tariffs, nothing, no taxes. So the US car manufacturers can sell their cars to South Korea, to Seoul, and so on. And Mr. Trump was really happy with this deal they have agreed on. He flew back and he has seen that as a win situation for the US manufacturing companies. And they told them, hey guys, I negotiated that with South Korea. You can now sell your cars to South Korea and you don't have to pay any taxes at all. Now, 8 years later, if you walk around in Seoul, for instance, look around and count the number of US cars you have there. None. Nobody buys US cars, irrespectively of your, but he has seen that as a win situation for the US market. So that's why you have to really think twice how to deal with Mr. Trump. And this is also a nice story. John Decker, the chief correspondent from the White House, shared with us. I like that story really,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing all this information. This makes global business news real
Yeah.
because that's actually an interesting discussion from across the sea. Annette, tell us about your new year and your business growth and development. I know you've been concentrating on it.
Yeah, so I'm still very active to bring more peace to companies. So that's also the reason why I attend a lot of meetings in the Chamber of Commerce here in Cologne, to really get into contact with entrepreneurs, to really know what they yes, what they think and what's important for them. And besides the meeting with the head of Chamber of Commerce in the US, we also had a very interesting meeting as to the question if entrepreneurs should be political or not. And that was a very interesting discussion. Because yes, I think I don't know if you've already been talking about the situation here in Germany with the elections taking place 23rd of February. And yeah, I would say it's also an interesting situation because at present it's really not clear how it's going to continue. And yeah, there are also a lot of topics that have to be resolved. And I've also attended another discussion with candidates from 6 different parties. And one very important topic that we have to resolve here in Germany is bureaucracy. And the interesting thing was that none of the candidates really said what we should do. They were all, in my opinion, as some politicians are, they said we should have a closer look which of the laws we should dismiss. And so, yeah, it's a lot going on, and I have the impression that that's really true for many parts of the world. And so I really have the impression that we are in the midst of this time of transformation. And for me, the most important thing is to really stay calm. And in German, we have a saying, maybe Alexander, you can translate it. I don't know how to say it in English. Es wird nicht so heiß gegessen, wie es gekocht wird. So I can't translate it word by word, and it means that things are not eaten that hot as they have been cooked. And it really means that it's not good to worry too much about things. And yeah, just another aspect when she was talking about the new presidency of Mr. Trump was that other presidents, as he's already been president for 4 years, and it's now 4 years without the possibility to have a second time, that his let's say span of action is also limited as to the current situation in the Congress. And when this changes, then it will be more difficult for him. And so when I really left this, I thought, okay, the most positive thing really is, and that's what I also talk about when I'm working with entrepreneurs, is to really stay calm inside, because peace and contentment really starts within. And it doesn't help if I upset, or if I get angry, or if I yeah, can't sleep at night because of the news. Then that's something that's happening inside me. And the only thing that I can influence is inside me. And to really stay calm and centered, that's what, in my opinion, is the most important thing that we all on our planet Earth can do. And to really be positive, to be appreciative, to be peaceful inside, and to thus spread it to wherever we go. And so I so much appreciate your talks, Ed, because in my opinion, it really contributes to a better understanding worldwide. And that's why I also appreciate the possibility with Zoom that COVID has kind of brought us. Yeah, to always look on the positive sides, because if people really talk about the negative sides, then they bring negative energy into a situation. And even if the situation isn't as shiny as we want it to be, the more negative energy we give into the situation, the harder it is to really stand the situation. So it's always good to, yeah, I know it's the Monty Python will always look on the bright side of life, and it doesn't mean to neglect things, but to, in midst of the storm, be centered and positive, that we as humans, that we will find a solution for this. And the more of us who connect, the better it is.
Peace and love.
Exactly. Exactly.
I thank you both for your time today, being on the show with me. Please come back. Let's do it again.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you very
You.
much, Annette. Great to see you again.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, so we're going to sign off. This is San Diego behind me. I took that picture a long time ago, and it's still beautiful. There's new
Wonderful.
buildings here and there, but it's still good. Anyway, come and visit someday. I'll show you
Yes.
around.
Of course.
Okay,
Great.
bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you
Auf
Bye.
so much.
Auf
Bye.
Wiedersehen, right?
Auf
Okay.
Wiedersehen. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Ciao.
Thank you.